Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is debate. Let's take a look at some of the ways that we can use this verb. The first way the verb debate is used is to mean to argue about. So this could happen at work, can happen among family or friends, but generally, it's not just someone saying, I think we should do A, and the person goes, no, we should do B, but there's discussion about it. And sometimes it gets a little heated. People become passionate about what they're discussing or arguing about. A second way to use this verb debate is to participate in a formal discussion on a particular topic in a public place, meeting, or legislative assembly. One reason I selected this verb debate is because we're about 6 weeks away from the general election in the United States, and I think you're going to start hearing this verb more often. So it's very common for candidates for different offices, whether it's president, vice president, Senate, House of Representatives, any state offices as well. It's very common for people running for these offices to debate one another. So you'll see some example sentences of that a little later too. A third way to use the verb debate means to think about different options or choices in order to decide. And with this particular meaning, I think there's less kind of heat to the discussion, right? So it kind of means we're looking at the pros, the good things that could happen if we make choice A. We're also looking at maybe the negative things for choice A. And then also looking at the positives for choice B, or consequences or negative things that could happen with choice B. Debate is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, all you need to do is drop the E and then add ing to form debating. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by adding D, since the verb already ends with an E. Now, you'll notice the verb debate ends with a T sound. So the past tense ending is going to make an id sound, like this. Debated, debated. You might be relieved to know that I don't have any additional meanings for you with phrasal verbs that use the verb debate. So there's nothing additional here to add. We can go on to practicing our verb of the day in some different tenses. Today, we'll take a look at the simple present, present perfect, and the simple future. Let's start with the simple present. Remember, we use this verb tense to talk about habits, routines, facts, our present feelings also. So the thing to remember about affirmative simple present is that if the subject is I, you, we, or they, then you can just use the base verb as it is. If the subject is he, she, or it, then we need to add an S to the end of this particular verb. Let's take a look at an affirmative example in the simple present. The candidates for U.S. president debate one another before every election. So this sentence is kind of a combination of fact and a habit as well. And you'll notice that, in some other examples that this activity or this action is coming up. If I want to make a sentence in the negative simple present, I'm going to use do not and then the base verb with the subjects I, you, we, and they. Or I'll use does not and the base verb with the subjects he, she, and it. Here is an example sentence. His parents don't debate his curfew. right? So they're not going to argue or get into some kind of disagreement with their child. They say, this is curfew, the time you need to be home, and that's it. Okay? If I want to make a yes or no question in the simple present, I can start with do or does, depending on my subject, which comes next, and then we'll have the base verb. Here's an example. Does she debate the issues with her friends? Next, let's take a look at present perfect. We can use the present perfect to talk about an action that started in the past and it continues into the present. Or we can use it to describe an action that occurred at some point in the past, but we don't know when. Many times we'll call this the indefinite past tense. So, to make the present perfect, we're going to use have or has, depending on our subject, and then the participle form of the verb. Here, it's the same thing as the past tense. So, let's take a look at an example sentence now. Congress has debated extending the funding deadline for various pandemic programs. So this might go back to that second definition, right, of having these discussions in a public setting, like a legislative body, a legislative assembly, I think is what my definition said, where one side maybe speaks for something. So a particular person says, I think we need to extend funding for this particular program. Here are my reasons why. Someone else might get up and say, we should not extend funding. Here are the reasons why. And this can go back and forth for hours, especially in a legislative body. If I want to make a negative present perfect sentence, I'm going to insert not after have or has. You might hear native speakers use the contraction forms haven't and hasn't. Here's another example sentence. The candidates for this office haven't debated yet. Okay. Finally, if I want to ask a yes or no question in the present perfect, I can start with have or has, then I'll have my subject, and then the participle form of the verb. Have you debated the issue in class? And I should point out, this action of debate is a normal part of schooling, education, and classes. Can be a really good learning tool about learning how to form an argument, provide research or evidence to support a particular idea, and engaging with somebody who has an opposing or opposite view of a particular issue. Finally, let's take a look at the simple future. Today, we're going to use be going to and our base verb to discuss future activity. And let's go ahead and take a look at an affirmative example. This, I'll warn you, is a true statement as I'm recording this. President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden are going to debate each other on September 29th. So again, this goes back to that idea in the second definition we looked at having this discussion in a public setting of particular issues. If I want to make a negative sentence in the simple future using be going to, I'm just going to insert not after my be verb. Here is an example. She isn't going to debate the science of global warming. So again, here is someone who says, no, I will not argue about this. Finally, if I want to ask a yes or no question in the simple future, I'm going to start with a present form of be, then I'll have my subject, and then going to and the base verb. Here's an example sentence. Are the candidates for Senate going to debate in October? Finally, today, let's take a look at some words that are related to our verb debate. And the first word is the noun form. And just like our verb, this particular noun is going to have a couple different meanings. You'll notice the spelling and the pronunciation is exactly the same, whether this word is used as a noun or as a verb. The first definition for the noun debate is a formal discussion on a particular topic in a public place or legislative assembly. So, like some of our previous examples using the verb debate, right? We could change the last sentence about President Trump and Vice President Biden and say they are going to have a debate, right? There we're using debate as a noun. Here's another example sentence with this particular meaning. The students will have a debate on Friday. So again, very common activity for education, particularly as students get a little bit older. This might not be something you do with kindergartners and first graders, but it's more common in junior high, high school classes, and particularly college courses as well. A second way we can use the noun debate is to mean an argument about a particular subject, especially one in which many people are involved. Here is an example of that definition. There was a heated debate over the gun ban. So this maybe is not being done in a public place with many observers. It's not being broadcast on TV or through the internet. But here it's a discussion, and it sounds like from our example sentence here, many people were involved. Another related word that you might hear is the noun debater. This is a person who argues about a subject, especially in a formal manner. And I should note that debate in its noun form can be a class or an activity in high schools and colleges. And the people who participate in that activity are many times called debaters. And that's going to connect here to our example sentence. I was a high school debater. Another true sentence. This is something I did for 2 years while I was in high school. The last thing I'm going to leave you with today is a phrase. And the phrase is to be open to debate. And really, if you hear someone use this, it's suggesting or meaning that something requires more discussion or perhaps more research, or the particular topic or subject has not yet been proven. Okay? So let's take a look at an example of this particular phrase in a sentence. Whether the story has a happy ending or not is open to debate. So we can imagine some people are discussing a particular story they've read. Some person perhaps read it and thought, oh, this has such a nice happy ending. Someone else has read it and thought, no, the ending is not happy. So perhaps, again, if this is a class, people are now going to discuss, or perhaps they'll have to do more research to figure out what was meant by the ending of this story. So you might hear this phrase used. It's something I think I hear a little bit as I watch TV and people discuss particular issues. And someone might say something very strongly, right? Like, this thing is proven, and someone else will come, no, that's open to debate because, and they might provide an additional explanation as to why something is still not proven quite yet. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.